In the 25th century, the captain of an interstellar warship, Hua Yaoyao, unexpectedly dressed up as Hua Daniu, an old girl from Changhe Village of the Dayu Dynasty. Faced with her sickly mother and her brothers and sisters who were dying from cold and hunger, she had to find a way to save them. I only found out when I was out foraging that her Kunpeng ship had followed suit, so Xia Yan. Thank you very much for saving your life, Mississippi. If you keep this jade pendant, it will be a great reward in the future. Hua Yaoyao said, no need, if you can catch your breath, just stay far away from me. Xia Yan said, this girl is unfathomable. I will take care of her. Hua Yaoyao said, let's gather the mud together. This girl is going to cultivate mountains and support her family. Xia Yan. Coincidentally, I don't have much else, just a lot of people. Looking at the people helping with the work all over the mountains and fields, Hua Yaoyao pinched her chin and said, this man seems to be quite wealthy, why not? A certain prince climbed up the pole and said, Empress, in the future, whatever you want to do, just give orders and I promise to ensure that you have no worries. Hua Yaoyao said, I want to go to heaven. Xia Yan. I will accompany you for my husband. Keywords of the novel. Medical concubine, she drives a warship with the prince to enjoy the Milky Way without a pop-up window. Medical concubine, she drives a warship with the prince to enjoy the Milky Way. Download the complete text. Medical concubine, she drives a warship with the prince to enjoy the Milky Way. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Falling to the point of snatching squirrels for food. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Falling to the point of snatching squirrels for food. Gollum, what a shame. Hua Yaoyao touched her belly, singing the empty city plan, and murmured softly. The rough linen clothes made my hands ache and I couldn't care anymore. How could she have such a weak day as the captain and team doctor of a grand 25th century interstellar warship? Grab a small tree with small hands and climb towards the desolate mountain. If she doesn't find something to eat anymore, she might really starve to death. Her original identity was saved by starvation, and now she is. That's right, Hua Yaoyao is not from here. She was originally the captain of a starship in the 25th century. During an expedition mission, the warship suddenly lost its kinetic energy in the lonely space and lost consciousness before she could react. Opening her eyes again, she arrived at this unfamiliar place and became a famous old lady of the Hua family in Changhe Village. When Hua Yaoyao learned this news from her original memory, she couldn't help but laugh. She will become an old lady in her 17 or 18 years, but what does it mean that she hasn't gotten married yet in her previous life? Of course, none of these are important. The important thing is that if she continues to be so hungry, her newly worn soul will not be able to save her life. So he struggled to block the entrance of the Hua family's old house with his mother and a few hungry and emaciated younger siblings. Pitifully, I request my grandparents, uncles, third uncles, fourth uncles, and fifth uncles to give my family a way to survive. Because she was making a lot of noise, the whole village gathered around to watch the excitement. Li Zheng and the elders of the Hua family were also invited by enthusiastic people. Hua Yaoyao, relying on the weak and pitiful mother and son of 7, forced the people in the old house to speak the most heartless words. In order to avoid future troubles, she used clever language to guide those bastards in the old house of the Hua family to proactively propose to sign a divorce certificate. To be honest, Hua Yaoyao felt embarrassed and the captain of the grand interstellar battleship came up with a plan to solve such a problem. But there's no way. Who said she's so hungry now that she can't even use any of her strength? With the heartless divorce documents thrown onto them by the old mansion residents, he left the old mansion with tears in his eyes, feeling reluctant to part with the sympathy of the whole village. Returning to the dilapidated Taoist temple outside the village and settling down with a few people of all ages, they forced themselves to come to the back mountain to find food. I leaned weakly against the slope, rubbing my numb hands from the cold, covering my ears that were about to freeze, and licking my cracked lips. I casually grabbed the snow around me and threw it into my mouth. Under the cold stimulation, my spirit slightly improved before I got up and continued climbing the mountain. She knew that if she didn't find anything to eat before the sun set, her family would die tonight. Since she was living with this body, Hua Yaoyao decided to take care of the family of 6 for her. Hua Yaoyao used both hands and feet, finally climbing up the mountain. Looking at the shining trees and withered weeds, she felt a bit overwhelmed in her heart. What a barren place this is. Everywhere is desolate, no wonder the villagers are so poor. Her family is particularly poor to the point where they can only rely on hay for heating. I took a few breaths while holding on to the withered tree beside me, took a brief break, and continued to walk deeper. Jiu. I don't know how long I've been walking, but just as Hua Yaoyao felt like she couldn't walk anymore and was about to starve to death on the mountain, suddenly her ears twitched slightly. Just now, she seemed to hear a different movement mixed with the wind. So he quickly stopped and listened carefully, and indeed there was a slight chirping sound coming with the mountain wind. Supporting his body with the tree pole beside him, his sharp gaze followed the sound and saw a simple and gray squirrel hiding something in the tree hole. This scene made Hua Yaoyao's eyes slightly bright. He carefully bent down to pick up a few stones and, with the help of the sound of the wind blowing fallen leaves, quietly approached the tree hole. When Hua Yaoyao saw all the squirrels' bodies enter the tree hole, she blocked it at the maximum speed she could use at the moment. Jiu. On Goddesses' Day, write a story about ancient costume goddesses to send to the little fairies. Wishing them a happy holiday. I hope all the fairy sisters can support me a lot. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Accidental Discovery of Gold Finger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Accidental Discovery of Gold Finger. The squirrel was clearly frightened by the unexpected guest and kept making a slight chirp. It only lost its life after a few sounds. Today, she not only found food to eat, but also drank broth. There was no way, in order to survive, Hua Yaoyao had to take it with him. After strangling the squirrel, his strength drained and he fell outside the tree hole, looking inside with hopeful eyes. That's really good. This little squirrel has more food than her family, including pine cones, wheat grains, rice grains. And 2 eggs that are the size of a thumb and something unknown. Seeing these 2 eggs, Hua Yaoyao ignored everything and pulled apart the dead branches and leaves around her, clearing a relatively safe place to bury the eggs. Then light a fire on it, first to keep warm for oneself, and second to prepare to cook the eggs and eat them, to replenish some energy for oneself. Otherwise, she is afraid that she will not be able to return to the broken Taoist temple. Hua Yaoyao looked at the newly used lighter in her hand and blinked in confusion. Where did this thing come from? I carefully recalled the process before and after the ignition, as if she wanted to ignite it, and then this thing appeared in her hand. So, is her journey actually carrying a golden finger? Thinking of this, I thought of putting the lighter back. So the lighter disappeared. I want to drink milk. Faced with an empty palm, Hua Yaoyao tried again, and then a 220 milliliters bag of milk appeared in her palm. It seems that I really crossed the border with supplies. Since that's the case, she won't panic anymore and won't be in a hurry to drink milk immediately. Instead, she will first build a soil fence around the fire. This can prevent the fire from spreading outward and causing a fire, while also maximizing the concentration of heat. After finishing these, she tore open the bag and drank a bag of milk with small sips. With food in his stomach and his strength returning, he finally buried his head and carefully took out the food hidden by the squirrel, putting it in his pocket. It's not that her eyelids are so shallow that she even needs this thing. But in her current situation, the food carried by her golden finger cannot be taken out directly. Aha! Just as Hua Yaoyao finished digging out the tree hole, baking while covering her ears and waiting for the eggs to ripen, a muffled groan suddenly made her hair stand on end. She vigilantly observed the surroundings, searching for the direction of the sound. Finally, it was discovered that there was a bloody person curled up next to a shrub about 10 meters behind the tree hole. Hua Yaoyao. Do you want such dog blood? She just came out to find something to eat, could she still save someone? Out of professional instinct, she stood up and walked cautiously towards the curled-up person. With wary eyes, he stopped 3 meters away from the blood man and said, "Hey, are you still alive?" A faint voice is considered a response. Hua Yaoyao. Forget it, or go and see if there is still any help. She took a few more steps forward and saw bloodstains spreading from the depths of the jungle. Obviously, the other party fled to this place and couldn't move and fell down. Her pupils contracted slightly and she quickly began to move. She doesn't want to cause trouble for herself. So he tore off a piece of cloth from his tattered clothes, covered his face, and crouched down to examine the other person's body. He's really amazing. He has 2 holes in his body, both near his heart. He came to this place from deep with such injuries. As for the injuries on the face and other parts, in front of these 2 holes, they are simply childish. Without daring to delay, Hua Yaoyao's mind twitched slightly, and a painkiller, a bottle of disinfectant, and all medical supplies appeared in her hand. Then he skillfully fed the painkiller into the other person's mouth, and then began to clean the wound and apply the medicine. After all the busyness, she was sweating profusely. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Xia Yan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Xia Yan. Amidst her busyness, Blood Man slowly opened his eyes and saw a pair of focused and calm gaze. Even wearing the roughest linen clothes with many patches on them cannot conceal the calm and composed demeanor emanating from those eyes. Unfortunately, that face was covered by a coarse cloth, and I don't know what she looks like. Having such a pair of eyes must be extremely delicate. The man blinked and said in a hoarse voice, "Thank you very much, miss, for saving me. I will definitely repay you in the future." "No need." Hua Yaoyao's movements didn't stop, and her tone was light. "Leaving early when you're better is the best way to repay me. Man, don't worry, girl. I won't bring trouble to you. That's the best." Hua Yaoyao treated his wound and placed more than 10 milk tablets next to him. "If you're hungry, put a piece of clean white gauze in your mouth to relieve hunger," she said without giving the other person a chance to speak. "Pack up your things and turn around and leave." "Miss, wait a moment." The man saw her throwing him here to leave and quickly called out to her. "What else is there?" Hua Yaoyao stopped and turned her head to look over. "If you want me to take you home to recuperate, you can only say sorry, there's no place in my house." "No, not really." Xia Yan quickly explained, I have a jade pendant that I carry with me. Please accept it, Mississippi. I hope you don't mind thanking me again for saving your life when I have the opportunity in the future." "No need." Without hesitation, Hua Yaoyao withdrew her gaze and walked back. "As I said, all you need to do is leave this place as soon as possible, which is the best reward for me." She returned to the tree hole, took out the 2 eggs from under the ashes, and disappeared from Xia Yan's sight along the original path. Xia Yan watched as the slimming figure disappeared completely, and a hint of coldness flashed in his gentle eyes. Whispering in his heart, "No matter who you are or what your purpose is, you can never get anything from me that you shouldn't have thought of." Hua Yaoyao never thought about getting anything in return. He saved someone and quickly grabbed what he had just found and rushed towards the broken Taoist temple. "Sister, have you come back?" As Hua Yaoyao quickly returned to the Taoist temple carrying the food she had obtained from the squirrel's nest, she heard the weak voice of the second sister, "I've boiled some water. You should drink some quickly. Drinking some water will make you less hungry." Hua Yaoyao responded and stepped into the broken Taoist temple. "How are your mother and younger siblings doing?" "Not very good." Ernyo's eyes were filled with loneliness, and her voice was a bit choked. Mother. She refused to drink water. Hua Yaoyao is speechless. What's the point of not drinking water? She glanced at Cheap Air Mei and ordered, come and make a fire, I'll bring some food back. Really, as soon as she heard of something to eat, Nyo's eyes lit up instantly and she said, that's really great. I'll just cook over the fire. Hua Yaoyao drank a bowl of water and helped her sister make it together. The things in the squirrel's nest were very miscellaneous, and she picked out everything that could be eaten and cooked it together. Sister, have you cooked everything? Seeing that she put all the food she got back into the pot, Nyo felt a little distressed. Add more water, save some, and you can eat it for 2 days. It's okay, let's cook it first and eat it. With less than half a kilogram of miscellaneous grains to be eaten in 2 days, Hua Yaoyao couldn't afford to lose this person. Only when you're full can you find more food, she said mainly, she knows she came with supplies and doesn't have to worry about her whole family starving. Upon hearing what the elder sister said, Nyo swallowed her saliva and nodded, not insisting any longer. We'll all listen to the elder sister, she said. Hua Yaoyao smiled and remained silent, looking at a large pot of water in front of her with only a little food. Obviously, this silly girl wanted the whole family to have enough water to drink. Wishing fairies and sisters a happy goddesses' day. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. This Great Master, good morning everyone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. This Great Master, good morning everyone. Taking advantage of Nyo's lack of attention, Hua Yaoyao added some finely processed rice. On the way back from the mountain, I found a relatively safe place and checked the golden finger I brought with me. It wasn't until she saw clearly that she arrived at this unfamiliar place with the Starry Sky Warship. All kinds of supplies prepared in the warship are present, but none of our comrades have been seen. I don't know what's going on with them either. Do you have your own experiences like this? Survived in a brand new environment? Oh, what is that? Hua Yaoyao covered the pot lid tied with sorghum stalks and turned around to tidy up the squirrel. Nyo exclaimed in shock when she saw the bloody thing. Meat. Hua Yaoyao's concise answer. Quickly chop the squirrel meat washed with snow water into small pieces, and when the water in the pot boils, put it into a miscellaneous grain pot to cook together. Gulu. I heard it was meat, but Nyo couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Soon, the aroma of food permeated the entire Taoist temple. The mother and son, who were originally lying in the corner like dead people, couldn't help but look up. Big sister, second sister, what are you cooking? A weak voice filled with hope came, how fragrant is it? Big girl, where did you get the food? Mother Zhang asked anxiously, although we are poor, we cannot do shameless things. Hua Yaoyao said, don't worry, mother. I dug a squirrel hole in the mountain to find it. Did you enter the mountain? Upon hearing her answer, Zhang struggled to lift herself up from the weeds, but unfortunately, due to illness and hunger, she ultimately failed to perform this simple action. What are you nervous about? Hua Yaoyao looked at Che Jian's mother speechlessly and said, I'm not coming back properly now. Besides, I'm not taking this risk and the whole family is waiting to starve to death. I didn't mean that, I was just worried. Worried about you? Zhang was extremely ashamed of what her eldest daughter had said, wiping her tears weakly. It's all because my mother is useless, causing you to suffer with her. Alright, don't talk about all of this. Hua Yaoyao dislikes listening to meaningless words the most, now we need to find a way to keep the whole family alive. While talking, I saw that the porridge with squirrel meat was almost cooked in the pot, and then I picked up the only 3 bowls at home. You eat, mom is not hungry. Zhang Shi looked at the porridge handed by her daughter and swallowed secretly, but forced her face to one side. Eat while it's hot, there's still something in the pot. Hua Yaoyao was too lazy to say much and directly fed her mouth with a small spoon that was missing half of the handle. When you eat, I still have to feed 3 and 4 girls, she said. That's right, in their family, the sick and weak mother lives with their sick siblings. In addition to her big girl, there are also 2 girls, 3 girls, 4 girls, and 5 girls, plus a little egg. It was a miracle for Hua Yaoyao that the 7 mothers and sons were able to survive in such a difficult environment until now. Your younger brother. Zhang opened his mouth to eat a mouthful of congee fed by his daughter, and looked anxiously at his little son lying nearby. Don't worry, he's indispensable. Hua Yaoyao's attitude was not very good. Isn't there still second sister feeding her? Mom, just listen to big sister and eat quickly. I'm here with fifth sister and little brother. Ernyo listened to the conversation between her mother and sister and couldn't help but urge her, we can only eat when we take care of you. She was already so hungry that acid water was pouring out of her stomach, and her mother was wasting time like this. Smelling the fragrance in the air, I wish I could drink 3 big bowls to satisfy my craving. Meat, I have eaten meat. With a hint of joy in her tender voice, second sister, there's meat. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Doubting Life, good afternoon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Doubting Life, good afternoon, it's really fragrant. There aren't many things to eat, and the pottery pot isn't big either. A family of 7, each with half a bowl, but it's also the best meal their family has had in recent years. Big sister, the meat is really delicious. Little Egg had enough food and had some strength. He got up from the haystack and ran towards Hua Yaoyao, extending his little arm. Big sister, hold on, he said, looking down at this skinny and disfigured little brother. Hua Yaoyao bent down, don't make a fuss, little brother. Before she could pick up the child, Ernyo picked up her younger brother and said, Big sister is already tired of going out to find food. You can't keep pestering her. Oh, big sister, take a break. After being taught a lesson by the second sister, the little one didn't get angry either. He smiled and looked at Hua Yaoyao, you're a good kid, don't hug me. Hua Yaoyao carefully touched his half-fleshless face and smiled gently, you're really good. Go to bed early, I'm afraid it will snow again tonight. She turned around and went out, bringing back some hay she had prepared, surrounding her mother and siblings inside. Then some wooden blocks were added to the stove to make the Taoist temple warmer. Afterwards, he picked up a stone slab and covered the stove pit, so that the fire would burn slower and the temperature would be more balanced. After confirming that everything was ready, Hua Yaoyao lay down next to Ernyo. Sister, please cover more. Ernyo pushed the hay on her body towards her and said, I'm not cold. Don't make a fuss, cover it up yourself. Hua Yaoyao covered her back and whispered, Big sister has better health and is more resistant to freezing than you. No, it's not. Ernyo retorted in a low voice, last night, big sister was so cold that she scared me to death. Hua Yaoyao. Yes, when she wore it, not only was she hungry enough to doubt life, but she was also cold enough to doubt life. My body stiffened like a dead person, and it took me a while to recover from that state. She quickly got up and slowly moved her body, which slowly brought some warmth to her stiff body. It was also during that period that she fused her original memories, learned about the current situation of the family of 7, and understood how their orphans and widows were being bullied. 3 years ago, his original father Hua Eru helped with logging and drainage outside, but was swept away by a flash flood, leaving no one alive or dead. The news came home, and Zhang, who was in her 60s, gave birth prematurely on the spot, giving birth to a small egg weighing less than 3 pounds. Afterwards, the whole family was kicked out of the old house and lived in this dilapidated Taoist temple. It is also for this reason that the marriage that big girl originally talked about also withdrew, becoming a joke for the whole village. It was not until Hua Yaoyao arrived that he completely severed ties with the old house. Don't worry, it won't work. Knowing that Ernyo was frightened by her original appearance last night, Hua Yaoyao comforted her softly, didn't you see me burning a fire in the stove? Ernyo's voice was a bit choked up. Sister, from now on, we won't have anything to do with Yinai's side. Yeah, aren't you happy? Facing the young girl around her who was only 14, Hua Yaoyao's tone became much gentler. No, it's not. Ernyo sniffed and said, I'm very happy. In the future, they won't be able to come back home to pick up things, right? Yes, if they come back, they'll treat them like thieves and shoot them out. Hua Yaoyao casually said the harshest words, if it's really not possible, we'll arrest it and send it to the government. Will the official master take care of such matters in our common people's homes? Speaking of this, Ernyo hesitated and said, I heard that the officials are very fierce, and the horse butchers in the village are very afraid. Not afraid, we don't do anything bad. Hua Yaoyao comforted in a low voice, only those who have done bad things will be afraid of officials. She wanted to laugh when she said these words. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Kunpeng Ship, Good Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Kunpeng Ship, Good Night. How many officials in feudal society were kind-hearted? Of course, Hua Yaoyao believes that she will teach her younger siblings well, so that they can learn how to avoid being caught by government officials and how to protect themselves. Being comforted by her, Ernyo felt at ease in her heart. The sisters whispered sweet words, and soon Ernyo fell asleep. The night wind was particularly piercing, and Hua Yaoyao listened to the howling cold wind outside, as well as the even breathing sound around her, and her thoughts entered the interior of the warship. Everything inside the warship was familiar to her, and as long as she wanted, she could instantly reach any place on the warship. The material warehouse is divided into food warehouse, weapon warehouse, energy warehouse, starry sky collection equipment warehouse, cultivation and planting warehouse, breeding warehouse, daily necessities warehouse. In short, all the necessary supplies for interstellar navigation are available here. In the evening, time was limited, and she only went to the food warehouse. Seeing that the warehouse was full of supplies, she felt confident. At this point, Hua Yaoyao is preparing to carefully inspect each warehouse and summarize all material information for easy access in the future. With a slight movement of her mind, she arrived at the breeding barn first. I want to see if the carnivorous animals that have been raised inside are still alive after experiencing time travel. Fortunately, pigs, cows, sheep, rabbits, fish, chickens, ducks, and geese all live well inside. And the feed in their area is also very sufficient, as if it has never been reduced. After wandering around the breeding barn, she realized that once the feed consumption reached a certain level, it would automatically replenish. Hua Yaoyao blinked and said, where does the supplementary feed come from? Thinking of this question, with a slight movement of mind, I went to the planting barn. Well, there's no problem here, it's just that the grain planted inside has matured and needs to be harvested. She walked up to the control panel, pressed the harvest button, and the planting robot harvested and processed the mature grain, which was then placed in the granary. Harvesting and farming are completed in one go, and the efficiency is much higher. Upon opening the granary, one can see that a portion of the grain inside will be consumed from time to time, indicating that it has been provided to the breeding barn. Understanding this, Hua Yaoyao felt a sense of joy in her heart. It's okay, there's no need for her to worry about these things. After starting the automation of the planting warehouse, I turned around and went to another place. After transferring all the warehouses, I arrived at the main control warehouse and saw familiar instruments. My eyes lit up. More than 100,000 people on the entire ship. Did they just disappear silently? Kunpeng, are you still there? Captain of the ship. Kunpeng is the intelligence system of this interstellar battleship. With its response, a light and shadow appeared in front of Hua Yaoyao. Captain, are you okay? Still alive. Hua Yaoyao answered casually, I want to know, what exactly did we encounter when I lost consciousness? We were swallowed by the starry beast. Kunpeng answered casually, except for you and me, everyone else has been digested. Hua Yaoyao. I feel like I've also been digested. She is now just a conscious body, carrying on with the current Hua Daniu. Kunpeng. Indeed, your once powerful body has been digested, but your soul is still there, isn't it? Upon hearing such a straightforward answer, Hua Yaoyao couldn't help but curl her lips, but she didn't hesitate about the question. So how did we get to this place? Hua Yaoyao was curious, what kind of existence do you belong to? Although the Chinese Academy of Sciences has been seeking breakthrough research in time and space shuttle. But it was not until their Kunpeng ship encountered the starry beast that they received any news of the successful study of the space gate. She doesn't believe that her travels are related to this research in her hometown. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Attempt results. Good morning, everyone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Attempt results. Good morning, everyone, Kunpeng. I don't know. Didn't you bring me here, Captain? Hua Yaoyao. Okay, she knew Kunpeng didn't understand what was going on. As for my current state, it seems to be in your soul, and you can retrieve anything from the ship at any time if you want. Including weapons. Hua Yaoyao asked with uncertainty, do you think our ship's weapons of mass destruction will be excluded from this world? Captain, you can give it a try. I'm not quite sure. Okay, from now on, we will be inseparable partners. You must fully accompany me to live in this world. Captain, don't worry, don't say that in the future, we used to be inseparable partners. Otherwise, how could I appear here with you? Can you see my current living environment? After a brief silence, Hua Yaoyao asked another question. I can't see it. Kunpeng answered very truthfully, I can only trace your existence when your mind enters the Kunpeng ship. I understand. Hua Yaoyao didn't pay much attention to this either. Does your current motivation still exist? It exists. The virtual figure seemed to be laughing, and I don't seem to be able to exist with much motivation now. So, you don't even need to fly anymore. How much more power do you need? Kunpeng. Captain, can you not be so straightforward? Hua Yaoyao ignored its roast, checked through the main control system that there were no other abnormalities on the ship, and then returned to reality. The wind blowing at night, I don't know how long it has been. Feeling that the fire in the nearby stove was burning quite vigorously, it was obvious that time had not passed as long as imagined. After hesitating for a moment, he came out of the haystack, his body trembling. Mom, this day is really cold. She sucked her nose, getting further away from the pile, her mind twitching slightly, trying to take out the high-tech products from the interstellar battleship. After trying many times without any movement, her mind finally locked onto an old-fashioned pistol that she had collected over 400 years ago. This time, there is finally a response. With a slight movement of her mind, her hand suddenly sank, and a small, dark pistol appeared in her hand. So, apart from food, what she can take out of the Kunpeng ship at present cannot have more killing power than this. Also, in this ancient era, firearms are too advanced, which is actually a tragedy for the world. Fortunately, when I first collected this, I also collected many bullets of this model. With this thing, you can completely protect yourself. Kunpeng ship is her own storage and farming space, which is already very good, much better than wearing it alone. After the experiment, a few wooden blocks were added to the stove before lying back in the haystack. Big sister, where did you go so early? In the morning, Hua Yaoyao went out for physical training, while also searching for some mushrooms in the deep mountains. Fortunately, she caught 2 wild chickens and picked up about 10 eggs. Coming back with steam all over her body, she saw Ernyo cleaning up the snowmelt water. Upon seeing her return, Ernyo eagerly looked over and said, "Ah, big sister, have you entered the mountain again?" "Yeah, where can I get food without going into the mountains?" Although she has a lot of grain in her Kunpeng ship, she dares not take it out casually. Moreover, the mountains behind the Padao temple are already natural treasures. It would be a waste to starve to death while guarding such a precious land. But there are wild beasts in the mountains. Ernyo's cracked little face was full of seriousness. If you have something good at least, how can it be good? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. No clothes to wear. Good afternoon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. No clothes to wear. Good afternoon. I have a plan in mind. Knowing that this little girl was worried about herself, Hua Yaoyao said, boil water and stew chicken soup quickly. She didn't go in the same direction as yesterday today, and didn't care if the person saved yesterday had already left. Sister, why don't you take the chicken to the town and sell it, and buy some coarse grain and salt to bring back? Ernyo hesitated to persuade, this way we can still hold on a little longer. Do as I say. I'm used to giving orders, but I really don't like people questioning my decisions. With me around, I won't be hungry for you. Her serious tone successfully scared Ernyo, causing her to shrink her neck and say, oh. Big girl, have you entered the mountain again? As soon as Hua Yaoyao entered the door, Zhang looked at her with concern and said, you child, why don't you listen? Can obedience provide the whole family with food? Faced with her mother's concerns, Hua Yaoyao spoke with warmth, but the most direct question was, all right, don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. Hey, it's all because the mother is useless, causing harm to your siblings. Zhang sighed weakly again, when my mother's health improves, I'll go back to your uncle's house and see if I can borrow some food to come back. It's better not to go. Hua Yaoyao picked up the chicken stew and replied, Uncle's life is not easy either. Why must we go and make them difficult? In my original memory, Zhang's parents had already passed away, leaving only her and her brother behind. Brother Zhang Ziyuan took his wife Lu and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Nowadays, there are even grandchildren, but with such a large family of more than a dozen, life is also tight. My uncle's family lives in a neighboring Luyuan village, which is 15 kilometers away from Changhe Village. The mountain is high and the road is far, so it's not easy to walk, and the 2 families don't have much interaction. When the mother and son were driven out of the old house, Lu came to visit them and gave them some food. Later on, during festivals, the big girl represented the whole family to visit her uncle's house for New Year's greetings and then returned. I'm not even embarrassed to take a bite at my uncle's house. Every time I come back from the Zhang family, my aunt will send me some food. This is already the most benevolent and righteous thing they can do for this family. Therefore, when she heard her mother say she wanted to borrow food from her mother's house, Hua Yaoyao directly opposed it. Can. Zhang wanted to say something more, but was forcefully interrupted by Hua Yaoyao, Mom, just listen to me. I'm such a big person, can't I still support you? Mother is worried about what danger you may encounter. Zhang's face was full of sorrow. Now, besides your siblings, there's nothing else for my mother. The old house has broken ties with their mother, and if there is anything else in the future, no one can really help them. Mother, a worried face cannot solve the problem. Seeing her mother's appearance, Hua Yaoyao could only comfort her gently and say, instead of thinking about all these things, it's better for you to relax and take care of yourself as soon as possible. Only when you are physically fit can you do something for us, right? Yeah, Mom, listen to me. Only when you're well can our family get by. Ernyo poured some of the melted snow water into a wooden basin and took a handkerchief that didn't show any color. Sister, please wash it while it's hot, she said. Hua Yaoyao took the wooden basin, washed her hands, and then twisted the handkerchief to wash her mother's hands and face. She turned around and washed the 2 little ones again. Only then did Sannyo and Sinyo shout out, you 2 are not young anymore. Get up and wash up, don't always hide in the grass. Big sister. Upon seeing this, Ernyo quickly spoke out a reminder, Sannyo and Sinyo have no clothes to wear, so it's not convenient to get up. Hua Yaoyao. She forgot about this matter. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. All kindness worth goodness. Good night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. All kindness worth goodness. Good night, big sister, bring the wooden basin here, we can wash it ourselves. San Yo flipped over in the haystack and looked anxiously at Hua Yaoyao in silence, afraid that she would get angry. Hua Yaoyao placed the wooden basin on the ground, twisted a handkerchief, and handed it to her two sisters. Seeing two teenagers without clothes trembling and stretching out their thin arms to wash their faces and hands, they quickly withdrew. Hua Yaoyao rubbed the heads of the two little girls with heartache and said, "Hold on a little longer. I just dug up some medicinal herbs on the mountain, and when I go down to town to exchange some money, I'll pull some cloth to make clothes for you." "Big sister, we don't need to wear clothes," San Yo hurriedly said, after changing the money, "just buy more grain and come back." "Yes, big sister, neither third sister nor I need to wear clothes." San Yo also took the conversation and said, "We are all used to sleeping in the grass every winter. It's quite warm, and we also need less cloth to save food." "Stop talking." Hua Yaoyao's throat seemed to be blocked by cotton, and her voice was a bit choked up. "Everyone is well behaved, big sister will arrange it." In fact, if it weren't for Ernyo reaching the age of matchmaking, she wouldn't have been able to get dressed and walk around. But in their family's situation, who would be willing to come to their house to propose marriage? Zhang listened to the children's conversation and silently wiped away her tears. It's all her fault that this mother has no ability, she can't provide a good life for the children, and she can't even find a good mother-in-law for the children. Big girl, is big girl at home? Hua Yaoyao had just put the chopped chicken into the pot when someone outside shouted. At the first sound, she didn't react. After being shouted 3 times, she realized that she was actually a big girl from the Hua family. "Big sister, it's Grandma Ma from the east of the village." Ernyo reminded, "I'll go see what's up with Grandma Ma coming over." "I'll go, you watch the fire in the stove, don't let it burn out." Hua Yaoyao stopped Ernyo, washed her hands in the basin, and wiped the firewood before walking out. At the same time, he responded, "Grandma Ma, I'm here." As she spoke, she had already left the Taoist temple and saw an old lady standing outside with snow-white hair and coarse cloth clothes, carrying a basket. "Big girl, come over here." Seeing her come out, Grandma Ma quickly waved to her with a loving smile on her face. "Grandma Ma, what's up with you?" Hua Yaoyao politely greeted the person and said, "Come in and sit down. It's very cold outside." "It's okay, Grandma just came over to deliver something to you and will leave soon." Grandma Ma's voice was gentle as she lifted the blue cloth covering the basket and said, "Grandma knows your family has run out of grain, so she sent you a bowl of coarse grain. You can save some time and eat for 2 or 3 days." As he spoke, the wrinkled old man took out a bowl full of coarse grains and said, "Here, take it back and put it away. Just give me the bowl." "Grandma Ma, this." Hua Yaoyao really didn't expect that their family would be in such dire straits and they would still encounter such kind people to provide relief. "Hurry up and hold it, don't spill." Grandma Ma's face was full of kindness and she said, "It's a pity to have done so." "Hey, thank you very much, Grandma Ma." Hua Yaoyao smiled and said, "Come in and bake the fire. I'll be here soon." "No need, I'll just wait here." Grandma Ma didn't want to enter the house. In her opinion, the dilapidated Taoist temple was leaking air everywhere, and it was not as warm as outside. Seeing her persist, Hua Yaoyao didn't force herself either. She quickly turned around and entered the house, poured coarse grains into a broken clay jar, and washed the dishes with snow water. Open the pottery pot and take out a few pieces of chicken from inside and put them into a bowl. "Big sister, that meat hasn't been cooked yet." Ernyo felt a little heartache when she saw this, but she didn't stop her, so she just whispered a word of warning. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Market Rush. Good morning everyone. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 10 Market Rush. Good morning everyone. It's okay, let Grandmama take it home and add water to stew it into soup for herself to drink. Hua Yaoyao responded casually, turned around and took out a bowl. Grandmama, please slow down and don't fall, she said, big girl, you. Seeing the meat in the bowl, Grandmama was startled and quickly wanted to take the bowl out of the basket. Grandma doesn't want you, she said, Grandmama, I set a trap at the foot of the mountain last night, and this morning when I went there, I saw a wild chicken inside. Hua Yaoyao reached out to stop the old man and said, it happened that there was no food at home, so I packed it up and stewed it, but it hasn't been cooked yet. There isn't much, take it back and add 2 bowls of water. You should be able to take 2 sips. Please don't mind, Grandmama. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to take the food you sent. You child. Grandmama really didn't expect this child to be so thoughtful in his work. Then Grandma won't be polite to you, she said, it's useful for your big brother and his team. Come and say hello anytime. Hey, good. Hua Yaoyao readily agreed, slow down your journey, I won't keep you. It's really cold outside, be careful not to freeze it out. Hey, Grandmama knows. You should go back quickly too. Grandmama's face was full of smiles, and the wrinkles on her face became more prominent as a result. She waved her hand and turned to walk down the mountain. Watching the old lady slowly walk away, Hua Yaoyao withdrew her gaze and turned back. Big girl, in the future, if your Granny Ma's family needs any help, do you know? Upon seeing her return, Zhang spoke seriously and said, over the past few years, thank you, Grandmama, for bringing us some food every now and then. Otherwise. Sigh, Mom, I know. Hua Yaoyao didn't feel that her mother's words were unnecessary. She also found in her memory the situation of Grandmama's family supporting this family. Even if it's not her who benefits, it doesn't affect her willingness to treat kindness with kindness. The chicken soup was stewed well, and Hua Yaoyao and Ernyo worked together to serve their mother and a few children, leaving Ni to tidy up at home while she carried a small basket and went out. Qingfeng town is 20 kilometers away from Changhe Village, and it is all mountain roads with no ox carts or carriages passing through. All by walking. Fortunately, I ate well from last night until this morning, and Hua Yaoyao's physical condition has recovered quite a bit. Combined with the scientific methods of daily practice in previous lifetimes, walking is truly no less than anyone's. Hey, big girl, are you going to town too? She had just passed an old farmer carrying a burden when she heard someone greeting her. Hua Yaoyao turned her head and saw a man with gray hair smiling at her. Oh, it's Uncle Su. She recognized the man as Su Dashan, the leader of the Su family, who was less than 40 years old and looked more like an old man in his 60s in later generations. Glancing at the burden he was carrying, he casually asked, are you going to sell things in town? Yeah, our family is getting married soon. These are the mountain goods we've picked from the mountains in the past 2 years. Can they be sent to the town for a look? How much does it cost? Su Dashan smiled innocently and said, are you? I also picked some herbs on the mountain and exchanged them for some silver coins. Hua Yaoyao didn't hide it either. As for what kind of herb, she didn't explain it so clearly. That's pretty good. Su Dashan smiled very realistically and said, yesterday I saw that your family was cut off by the old house, and uncle was still worried about you. He didn't say the rest, but anyone who understood could hear it. He was worried that Hua Daniu's whole family wouldn't survive this winter. Thank you very much for your concern, Uncle Su. I will take good care of my mother and siblings. The conversation between the two did not affect their journey, and they walked together without feeling bored. After walking for about 2.5 hours, I finally saw the outline of Qingfeng town ahead. End of this chapter.